Shannon Martin, tonight, 2 years later, and families are still demanding justice for their loved ones who died on flight PS 752.
Because 2 years has passed and we haven't seen a lot in that last 2 years.
We'll take you to the ceremonies and memorials held today and hear the deep pain and frustration that remains for those left behind. Plus,
the system is so overwhelmed that the medical practitioners aren't in a position to call them back yet.
As COVID hospitalizations continue to rise, vaccination efforts ramp up this weekend, and
the Eden Center and in Ontario Place, but his impact is much broader than that.
The legacy that one of Toronto's renowned architects leaves behind.
This is CBC Saturday News.
Thanks for joining us. It has been 2 years since flight PS 752 went down. 176 people on board all died when the plane was shot down by Iranian forces. Many of those people had deep connections in the GTA, families, careers, businesses. Dale Manukduk joins us live from a memorial tonight. 2 years in, Dale, many say they are still waiting for justice.
That's right, Shannon. 2 years and still no justice for the families of those who died on flight PS 752. No accountability from the Iranian government, and without justice, without answers as to why this happened. It's been hard for these families, the Iranian community, and people all over this country. As you can see by this immense amount of support behind me, hundreds of people are here at Mel Lastman Square. But before this candlelit vigil, the Association of Families of Flight PS 752 victims held a virtual ceremony. It was incredibly emotional. They made sure to list and acknowledge each person who died, including the unborn child on that flight. But again, it wasn't just about remembering those who were lost. It was a call to action.
In an ordinary day like today, I had to get up, go to work, and take my daughter to school.
Hamed Ismailian lost that daughter and his wife on January 8, 2020. On his road to recovery is the fight for justice. Ismailian is the president of the Association of Families of Flight PS 752 victims and has traveled the globe seeking answers. He urged Canadians to imagine if day after day our neighbors were murdered.
A mother, father, and 2 daughters. Suddenly the next day, 55 PhD, master's, and undergraduate students in Edmonton, Halifax, London, Toronto, Waterloo, Hamilton, Windsor, Winnipeg, and Vancouver are murdered in cold blood. They're murdered in the most vicious manner, cruel and without mercy. The day after that, 29 children murdered.
The message is clear. The time for diplomacy has ended, and the time for justice is now. The Canadian federal government, the RCMP, have not opened up a criminal investigation. The families want transparency and accountability.
It is obvious to all that no country responsible for shooting down an aircraft should then also be in charge of the investigation. That doesn't make sense, and it needs to change.
Without those answers, closure will be very hard to find. Yasmin Karimi is a grief counselor working with some of the affected families.
We need to make sense of what happens to us, and because of how it's happened and the fact that people are not receiving the validation they need. So that part is now a missing part of this grief. We're seeing a lot of trauma. We're seeing a lot of a struggle with injustice. And it has somehow turned into mass trauma for us as a nation.
Now, the Association of Families of Flight PS 752 victims had a list of demands. 1, they want the truth, full transparency and accountability. 2, the RCMP open a criminal investigation without further delay. 3, arrest warrants for the leader of the Islamic Republic of Iran and the senior members of Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. And lastly, that the IRGC be listed as a terrorist organization. And Shannon, while the Prime Minister and Minister of Foreign Affairs, Melanie Joly, were live at this virtual event, they did not directly acknowledge those demands, but rather reiterated that they will continue to fight for justice. Shannon?
Thanks, Dale. He's reporting for us tonight from a candlelit memorial there in Toronto. Well, turning to the latest in the COVID pandemic now, hospital admissions in Ontario reached a new high today, almost 2,600. In an effort to get more shots into arms and keep more people out of hospitals, the province opened up 10 more vaccination clinics just for education and childcare workers. Talia Ricci has our story.
In-person classes weren't held at Toronto schools this week, but vaccine clinics were.
He just got his second vaccination and he turns 6 tomorrow, so very excited.
Oh, wow.
My son right now is getting his booster, so happy about that.
COVID-19 hospitalizations hit record highs in Quebec, Ontario, and New Brunswick Saturday. At least one regional health unit in Quebec started transferring patients to long-term care homes. The upward trend has health experts issuing warnings like this.
It is very possible within the next few weeks we will overwhelm hospital capacity. These are the projections, at least here in Quebec.
In Alberta, new projections show hospitalizations could triple in the coming weeks. Those numbers would be higher than the province's peak during the fourth wave.
It is true that the Omicron variant causes less hospitalization and fewer deaths, it appears to be, than the Delta variant. But the absolute number of people infected means that we're going to have still a big pressure on our hospitals.
That pressure, which also includes staffing shortages, has resulted in hospitals across the country canceling surgeries. A move one cancer patient support organization wants people to know can be life-threatening.
Mothers are calling me crying on behalf of their daughters who are being told that they have to wait to have the cancer cut out of them.
Patients and hospitals are bracing for a tough few weeks ahead.
The real pressure we have now is on hospitalizations and to a lesser extent on intensive care units. So vaccination is still the mainstay, the main tool by which we're going to come out of this pandemic.
It was other local parents who alerted this Toronto dad about today's vaccine clinic, something he says brings him comfort.
I like that community aspect. It's been helpful to feel like we're all in it together. Ready? 1, 2, 3.
Talia Ricci, CBC News, Toronto.
As Talia mentioned, the number of hospitalizations and the staffing shortages are putting pressure on hospitals. Cambridge Memorial Hospital CEO says at this point, at least 6% of staff are off. They're either sick with COVID or isolating. That staffing squeeze brings all sorts of challenges.
Balancing the needs of the patients with the available staffing. It's what we do every day. For that, we're really good at it as a system. It's just taxing us all because it's amplified now. It's every day.
The hospital is restricting all patient visits to virtual only, except for end-of-life and emergency situations. The latest restrictions have sparked several demonstrations this weekend. Here's a look at Toronto's Nathan Phillips Square earlier today. Members of the fitness industry gathering during what organizers call a peaceful mindfulness protest against restrictions. They're also advocating for mental health awareness, and they're talking about the impact of lockdowns.
Today we're here to manifest in a way of meditation to basically bring awareness to people of the effects of the lockdown.
ICANT, gyms and health clubs that are doing a lot of good for people's mental health. And as mental health rises and everyone from the big corporations continue to say that they care about mental health, then why are gyms and yoga studios and fitness centers closing?
We reached out to the province, and a spokesperson for the Ministry of Health had this to say. The decision was made to take limited time measures to help blunt transmission and prevent hospitals from being overwhelmed, and that settings such as gyms are at a higher risk of COVID-19 transmission due to forceful exhalation in an enclosed setting where masks are not always worn. Restaurant workers organized a so-called phone zap today, calling on MPs to help get more supports to workers, many who are experiencing layoffs for the fourth time.
Less than $1,200 or $1,100 actually a month is really not close to what most people need at all, not even their rent. So you're forcing workers into choosing between rent or food or anything that we can do to allow those workers the ability to get through this pandemic safely and then get out the other side whole is incredibly important.
It was organized by the Full Plate. More than 200 calls went out to MPs. About 2,500 emails were sent. They're calling for boosted benefits for hospitality workers from $270 weekly to $500. That increase would match CERB, which was available at the start of the pandemic. The organization has also been supporting workers with mental health support, legal advice, and grocery store gift cards. Well, turning to the world of sports and some good news. After weeks of rumors, it's official. Toronto Football Club is welcoming Italian star Lorenzo Insigne to the team.
Ciao, volevo salutare a tutti i tifosi del Toronto, sono contento per questa nuova avventura, volevo ringraziare la società e ci vediamo a luglio. All for one!
Yes, the four-year deal with the Major League Soccer club starts in July. Toronto FC President Bill Manning says Insigne is a world-class player in the prime of his career. The 30-year-old winger being celebrated all day on Instagram and Twitter by his new teammates and, of course, TFC fans. You know, it was sunny, we'll say that, but it was also chilly too. A cold weather alert remains in effect for Toronto. Victoria Alvarado is here now with our first look at the forecast.
Thank you, Shannon. Yes, the sunshine was beautiful today, but the temperatures are going to plummet, and they're going to continue to plummet. Right now, for your Saturday evening, -1 feeling like -7. But those icons are indicating some rain, which could potentially turn into ice pellets just because of how cold it really is. It's the perfect night, perhaps, to stay indoors and watch the Leafs play. As for your Sunday morning, 3 degrees, feeling like -2. And yes, the icons are indicating some snow. We do have some light snow lingering through Parry Sound, Barrie, and then by Sunday afternoon, it does reach the Hamilton and Toronto area. Just a dusting, however. Sunday afternoon, 3 degrees, feeling like -2. If you're going out perhaps for a skate, I would recommend to bundle up. It will just make it just make a lot more of an enjoyable experience. Other places in and around Barrie, 2 degrees, feeling like -3. Oakville, 4, feeling like -1, and Guelph, 2, feeling like -4. And that snow does continue on into your early work week. I'll get more into that into your long range forecast, but the temperatures, that is going to be the real story. The light dusting of snow just around 2 centimeters in Toronto, but more in your long range forecast. I'll be back in just a few moments to talk about all these temperatures that are about to plummet.
Okay, thanks, Victoria. You warned us. Well, you may not know his name, but you definitely know his work. Eberhard Zeidler designed some of Toronto's most iconic landmarks. The architect has died at the age of 95. Greg Ross takes a closer look at the legacy he leaves behind.
Well, he's a legend.
Professor of Architecture Richard Summers says you don't have to look hard in Toronto to find creations by Eb Zeidler. Some stand out more than others.
He's well known in Toronto for, I think, 2 projects, the Eden Center and in Ontario Place, what they call the pods and the Cinesphere.
He designed both in the early 1970s. Summers says other cities tried to replicate Zeidler's work on the Eaton Center.
Most of them failed. And they failed because they weren't thought through urbanistically in the way that Eaton Center is, that it's linked to the subway, it's linked to the path, it makes connections which were later built upon to the surrounding city.
Summers says Zeidler's original plans for Ontario Place were much grander than what we see there today.
The original design for Ontario Place was not just for that piece, but for an entire marina city, which included housing and cultural venue, all sorts of things. It was a whole city down on the water.
Mayor Tory tweeted his condolences to the Zeidler family, saying this about his work on the Eaton Center and Ontario Place. They are representative of a legacy that will live on. We are much the better for his creativity and commitment to excellent design. Going forward, his standards should be the benchmark. Summers says those values will be carried on through the many people Zeidler influenced over the years.
All the people that he mentored, all the people he worked with, his firm. He was a teacher for many years.
Zeidler was originally born in Germany. He came to Canada in 1951. In addition to designing more than 1,000 buildings in his career, he was awarded both the Order of Canada and the Order of Ontario. Zeidler would have turned 96 on January 11th. Greg Ross, CBC News, Toronto.
Students across Ontario are back to virtual learning. Even though this has happened before during the pandemic, the transition comes with challenges, especially for kids that don't have access to technology at home. A Toronto real estate agent heard some students would be without a laptop for at least a week, so he jumped in to help. And the response has been overwhelming. Ara Memorian joins me now. Thanks so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
So this isn't the first time you've done something like this during the pandemic. How did it all start?
This all started last spring sometime when I think it was either the first or the second time kids were going into this online learning situation. And one of my clients, Rachel, who's heavily involved as a parent at the Nelson Mandela Park Public School, she knows that I'm generally a very giving person. I've always, given as much as I can to all the communities that we work in. So she just gave me a shout and said, listen, there's just a bunch of kids that aren't going to be able to participate in any of these online opportunities. So I'm like, that immediately broke my heart that that was the case. And so I just did whatever I could. I just scoured local Facebook groups, responded to Facebook Marketplace ads for people selling laptops, and I would just buy them and then hand them to people that needed them. And then one of my great friends from when I was a really young kid, he's like, I know this guy who can sell you a whole bunch of refurbished Chromebooks for a really great price. So I just bought 50 of them at the time. No, it was like 20 or 30 of them at the time, last April sometime. Handed them over to Rachel and her parents, and they distributed them. And then I just sort of did that to the tune of about 10 Chromebooks a month for about a year, and got them into the hands of people that needed them. And then just now we got another call, and as you know, it's kind of blown up a little bit with another massive round of donations this time. I was self-funding it the first time around, and we just delivered 60 units yesterday or whatever, Thursday, and then buying 200 more as we speak.
It's amazing. And when you put it on your Instagram, the response was just like bonkers. You were hearing from all sorts of people wanting to help. What were they telling you?
Well, it wasn't all sorts of people. It was like my friends and my colleagues, like everybody that I knew just like stepped right up. And so I put it on my Instagram story. So it was 3 days ago, I got another message from my friend Rachel, and she's like, we need 50 to 60 devices for our school right now. And it was already a couple days into online learning. So I really didn't want kids to miss out on too much of it. So I just put it on my Instagram story, and I was like, listen, I need $6,000. I need to get 60 units. And it was 6 a.m. 3 days ago. And within like 8 minutes, I had $6,000 from one person.
Wow.
And then it was incredible. And then I put it out there. I'm like, listen, I've just got $6,000. It's not even 7 a.m. What else can we do here? And then next thing you know, my email is blowing up with people wanting to send me money and then sending me email money transfers. And, one guy had sent me a bunch of Ethereum, and I got some Bitcoin as well that I was able to convert and cash out and make happen. So it's been phenomenal.
It has. And you're also hearing from other areas, people saying, not only wanting to give you money, but also saying, this is an issue at other schools.
Yeah, so it all started with me supporting Nelson Mandela Park Public School, and then there, other low-income communities throughout the city. In Thorncliffe, there's a need for 200 devices at a school there specifically. But it's not just that. Like, this goes beyond online learning for me. I think, in 2022, not having access to a device to access the internet is, like an anchor tied around your legs, and you're just sinking, and the entire world is passing you by. From, investing opportunities to learning opportunities to social opportunities to just all kinds of growth opportunities online. You don't have access to it. So it's not really about just online learning. That's how this all started. Mm-hmm. But for me, it's so much more exciting to be able to provide devices. Like, the big difference here is the devices that I can provide, these families and kids get to keep.
Yes.
The Toronto District School Board, which has bought a whole bunch of devices too, and they're doing whatever they can to get them into kids' hands, they take them back after online learning is done. So this really isn't just I'm doing this for online learning and that's it.
Right.
This is something that sparked a huge passion here, and we're literally an inch away from finalizing all the details on our not-for-profit. And we're gonna take this for the long road here, and we're gonna see if we can raise $100,000 over the next little while, and then level up to $1 million, $2 million, $10 million. Who knows where we can take this thing?
It's incredible how a movement can start after just that one idea. And like you said, you're helping these kids build their futures, and it'll make a difference for them and their families.
Absolutely. And like the first step is the device. And then part two is like a lot of these kids don't even have access to an online connection, to an internet connection. So like that's a huge second step is, you know, right now you can kind of hang around any sort of public space and take advantage of some public Wi-Fi, maybe. But, you know, we want to be able to get these kids online in their homes as well. So that's a long-term goal for whatever we do here.
Well, thank you so much for being here with us and telling us all about it. I can't wait to see where it goes.
Oh, it's going to be awesome. And if anybody wants to find out more, you can find me on Instagram or Twitter. I'm Ara Mammo on all the socials, ARAMAMMO. Just come reach out and let's talk about it.
Thanks so much. That's Ara Memorian joining us in Toronto.
Thank you.
The Rideau Canal may not be open for skating just yet, but when it is, the nearby concession stands will be ready for customers so long as weather and health restrictions permit.
You're always on tenterhooks at this time of the year. Mother Nature is there to whack you in the head, just the way COVID has whacked everybody in the head in the last couple of years. We're going to give it a try. We're so very, very pleased. We really missed being out there last year.
Well, hey, something to look forward to. You'll be able to pick up a snack after getting some fresh air and exercise. Victoria is back now tracking some cold air. Not looking forward to that.
No, me neither. I'm not a really big fan of the cold, but unfortunately the Arctic air is going to sink in towards the GTA. We start our Sunday off 3 degrees, feeling like -2. Very similar to how today was, but with those wind gusts, it's going to feel even colder. By Monday, gusting up to 60 kilometers an hour in the Toronto area. If you have ornaments, decorations outdoors, I recommend you secure those or they might end up in your neighbor's lawn. If we take a look, we do have some snow that could be lingering through Barrie and on its way towards the Lake Ontario area, Toronto and Hamilton. It does linger in through your Monday and Tuesday. If you're in areas through the north, Owen Sound, through the cottage country area, a snowblower may be useful, but around the GTA, really just trace amounts up to 2 centimeters could be possible in through your Sunday and Monday. But the temperatures, that's the real story. It's going to feel like -15 on Monday, and later on into your work week, we continue to feel like -15 for Tuesday, but a relief by Wednesday. So hang in there, stay warm, and bundle up for your weekend.
Okay, some good advice. Thanks, Victoria. We'll see you tomorrow. Well, that's our show for tonight. Thank you so much for watching. You can stay caught up on news anytime on our website, cbcnews.ca. We hope you have a great night.